Welcome in to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Vic, the producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. And Gilbert, this week is a big week for the Rams, not just because they're taking on the Chicago Bears in the divisional round, but also this is the 10-year anniversary of the Rams moving back or returning to Los Angeles. And then also, it's also the anniversary of when they signed Sean McVay. So I'm gonna start off here by asking you, what is you cover this team in 2022? You've seen them coming back. It took a couple decades for the football to return to LA. What's been your biggest highlight, I guess, since the Rams have been back to Los Angeles? And then yeah, we'll just start off there.
Yeah, there's a lot, and it's actually hard to believe it's been 10 years because it felt like forever that the NFL wasn't in Los Angeles. I remember growing up and thinking like, why the hell there isn't an LA team? And obviously, I root for the Lakers and the Dodgers, and I'm like, this is a big market, right? Like I was a kid trying to figure out why the hell there isn't a
Yep.
football team here, and then boom, out of nowhere, 2016, and kind of worked out because I got into the NFL beat reporting business, and there was an opportunity for me to cover two LA teams and come home and cover the Chargers and cover the Rams. So hey, I'm glad that Kroenke made LA football come back. So maybe that's my biggest highlight. It's like, hey, I got to work over here in my hometown. Oh, you know what? I got one for you. It was the wild card game. I know the Rams lost, but it was the Rams against the Falcons at the LA Coliseum. And I was still working at the Las Vegas Review Journal, and I was covering the Rams, part time. No, sorry, the Raiders part time. And I just pitched, you know what? Can I go cover that playoff game, down the road in LA? And then, you know, I've covered a few games of the Coliseums at that point, but it was like, man, I'm covering a playoff game featuring a LA team, and I'm here as a reporter, and I was like, it was kind of surreal. Like I'm covering covering an LA team when there was no team growing up. So to me, it was like that first kind of like reminder for the Rams and McVay, like, hey, it's not gonna be that easy, man. You can score points all you want, but you need to be physical. You need to know situational football. And it was kind of like a wake up call for Jared Goff and Sean McVay, and they lost to Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. And I forget it wasn't that that pretty of a game, but you could tell the experienced team just like knew what to do or they wanted it more. And I think that was maybe fresh off the 28-3 debacle. Yeah. The Falcons, we were trying to go back and win a Super Bowl. I think they lost to the Eagles the following
Yep.
round, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. That was a controversial ending, I think, with Julio Jones. But that was a night where, like, yeah, you still have ways to go, but you're here, you arrived. And I think maybe Rams fans could relate to that memory. We're like, like it was exciting. It was an exciting year, but it was like, all right, get back to work. And obviously, Sean McVay, learn from that. Like he learned from that Patriots loss in the Super Bowl. So again, a lot of memories. But for me personally, it was surreal covering that game at the Coliseum press box and being there.
Yeah, and I think for me, and I'll keep it quick. I grew up both a Raider fan and a Rams fan here in LA. There were the two teams. I had an AFC team and an NFC team, and then when they both left, it was just crushing to see both of those teams leave. And I believe it was like 90. It was in the early 90s. I remember. And I know the Rams were down in Anaheim for a while there. They were playing in a baseball field. The Raiders were at the Coliseum, and like just seeing both of those franchises kind of lose their teams here in LA was tough. And then for me, like my highlight, and I hope it's okay for me to say this, Gilbert, but before you started covering games, and we got to go to a game in as fans to the Coliseum. We went to go see the Texans against the Rams, and just being
Oh,
able to go and tailgate there, I thought it was really cool. And just to have football back in LA, like I went most of what was it, 20 some years without football here. So for the Rams and then the Chargers to bring teams back here to LA. old franchises started here in LA was actually, I guess the Rams came from other places as well, but just to have them back in LA was really cool to see and what they built here. I think it's been a slow process for them, but winning the Super Bowl in a couple years back, I think really has helped the community here. And the other thing that I've kind of taken, you know, away from it too is the fact that like the Rams and the Chargers have like two separate communities where it seems like they're kind of divided. Like it seems like uh the Chargers have like Southern California, I guess, and then the northern part belongs to the Rams. So it's cool. They can both share it, but it feels like the Rams kind of have started to build something here, Gilbert.
Yeah, and I know Chargers fans don't like this, but I'm like, it wouldn't be a bad thing if the Chargers called themselves like California Chargers or, SoCal Chargers, SoCal Bolt, something like that, because they do have kind of like that Orange County to San Diego region, but obviously LA, the heart of LA is like still Rams town. But it's good because it's such a big area that you could have two different fan bases. And then it's kind of like baseball, but that one's obviously clearly divided. You got one in Anaheim because Orange County is huge, and then you got
Hmm.
LA County for the Dodgers, and it works out for two teams there. The Clippers and the Laker ones is the one I never understand. Like it's
Yeah.
rare to me, a Clipper fan, and I'm like, where do you guys belong? I don't know, but I don't want to get into the whole debate. But
Yeah.
uh, it was a uphill battle for the Rams, and to do what to see what they've done the last 10 years. Says a lot, but we all kind of knew what was going to happen for Rams to make it in LA. It's like you better have stars, you better win a lot, and they've done that with Sean McVay, so that's a big part of it. And then slowly you build more generational fans. So, yeah, obviously, when you have opposing fans take over the stadium, I think that's a different conversation. That's more tickets and secondary market and profit. But other than that, I think they're fine.
Yeah, and I'm with you, and it helps to have that Stan Kroenke money as well, where you
Yeah.
can go and get stars as well, Gilbert. And we have a great show for you guys. We have latest news and notes plus storylines for both teams going into this matchup. And lastly, before we do get to our game predictions, we'll have a engagement question. But I want to promote something. We did an interview with Los Angeles Times beat reporter Gary Klein. It'll be on here. We'll post it right after we're done here recording. We've just been running around for the last couple hours. So bear with us. We'll have the Gary Klein interview up, Gilbert. You want to let the people know what we talked about with Gary, just to
Yeah.
kind of set things up?
Yeah, definitely check out the Gary Klein interview, and it's always good to catch up with Gary. One of the nicest people in the NFL beat, just the nicest human overall. I call him a friend. I think he could call me a friend too. But we just hit it off, and it wouldn't have happened without Gary just being so helpful, welcoming, and inviting when I went to the Rams beat. And he could have been like, "Who's this kid? I've been on this beat since they got here, and he's been covering the team for 10 years. I was there for 1 year, and he's still there." And to segue, we did highlight Gary's great feature in the LA Times about the Rams coming back and being the 10-year anniversary. Gary is well connected. Check out that story. I'm sure he spoke to everybody in that team, in that front office, coaching staff, past players. Like, yeah, he mentioned Monday. He reminded me Monday was a 10-year anniversary of the Rams moving back and hiring Sean McVay. Well, that was a 7-year, I think, anniversary. I
Hmm.
forget. I'm losing track. Or no, is it 9? Yeah, 9. Yeah, it was a year after Fisher. But yeah, and then obviously we got into the divisional matchup, Rams, Bears, and we talked Caleb Williams, we talked Bears defense, we talked Puka Nakua, Stafford, Devontae, Shula's defense. We got into a lot. He gave us 30 minutes of his time. I highly recommend checking that out. But if you're watching this live on House of Horns, we haven't posted it yet, but soon enough we'll get it up there tonight. Hopefully, within the next hour after we're done recording here. And if you're watching this on Thursday, go check it out. The interview is ready and posted and ready for you to go.
Yep. And now, Gilbert, let give the people the engagement question of the day for our
Yeah,
viewers and
what
listeners.
What is the key for a Rams win over the Bears? And I also talked to Gary about the temperature in Chicago. That could be a factor for the Rams there. So run the football more when it's 17-degree weather and there's a wind chill where it might feel like it's 9 degrees instead of 17. Uh, try to avoid special teams because we'll see what Harrison Mavis does if he's being asked to kick in a playoff game with that wind. Brandon McManus did not know how to deal with that, and he's an experienced kicker. So, yeah, maybe have special teams not be a factor. We're like, you know what, win by 10, don't even mess around, run the football more. Uh, or maybe just, Gary brought this up, be more creative. Don't just do what you normally do at SoFi because what you do at SoFi won't translate outdoor venue in the cold. Find ways to be more physical, control the ball, control the clock. Yeah, but let me know what are your keys. Maybe what I keep saying, give me that Jared Verse dominant game where Jared Verse just says, you know what? Don't tell me about my PFF score, my pressure rate. Here you go, 2 turnovers. Here's a couple strip sacks. Like, just make it obvious for me, Jared Verse, that you're a dominant force out there.
Yeah, and also give us your score. How do you see this game going for whether, like you just said, give us the key and also the score, and then we'll share it on here, Gilbert. But let's get to Rams news and notes. Segment plus injury report. Let me go quick here because I want to get to the nitty gritty of this matchup. And as we said, if you want even more content, go and check out that interview with Gary Klein of the LA Times after this show. Sean McVay Gilbert is now the third longest tenured head coach in the NFL, one day behind Sean McDermott, who is second. And that is because we are seeing a bunch of guys getting either stepping down like Mike Tomlin or getting fired in the case of John Harbaugh. So pretty crazy that we just said that it's the near 9-year anniversary of Sean McVay, and now he is the third longest tenured head coach in the
Wow.
NFL.
Yeah, time flies there. Yeah, so yeah, I remember 2017. That's when he got hired with Anthony Lynn, and Lynn had to deal with the whole LA relocation to Chargers from San Diego to LA, and two different backgrounds, two different age groups, two different everything, and like Lynn was like this veteran coach who had to pay his dues, won 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos, and was up there in age in his 50s, and then here comes this other guy that the LA team hired, and it's like he's I think 30 years old. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
32, I think, or 31 when he got hired.
yeah, he was very young. I think he was coaching RG3, and he coached Kirk Cousins, and they didn't have their best outing that year, or their I think the final game was like a pretty bad performance offensively, but still Lesney and Kevin Demoff and Kroenke saw something in Sean McVay, and I think that's always kind of like the reminder of every coaching cycle is like take a chance, go find the next McVay, which is easier said than done. So you're gonna see that a lot this year, and it's been 9 years, and every year is like find the next McVay, and it kind of tells you a lot.
Yeah, and then his tree has been really successful. That also has helped him out, Gilbert. The Rams have signed outside linebacker Nick Hampton back to the active roster from the Brackton squad and plays Akilo Witherspoon with a shoulder injury on IR. So they lose
Oof.
that, Gilbert. Let me just go through here some of the things with the injury report. McVay said he was optimistic that Kevin Dotson, tight end, guard Kevin Dotson, tight end Terrence Ferguson, and defensive back Josh Wallace would play against the Bears. And looking at the report here, at the injury report, the first one that we got today, Gilbert, Kevin Dotson was limited with an ankle. Puna Ford was limited with an elbow. Matthew Stafford has a right index finger sprain. He was a full participant. Xavier Smith with the wrist was a full participant. Josh Wallace, who we just talked about, ankle was a full participant. Terrence Ferguson with the hamstring was a full participant, and Quinn Lake with the foot was a full participant. So it looks like they're getting one more. Gilbert Darius Williams was a NIR personal, and that's because he's away from the team today for the birth of a baby boy. Sean McVay said he should be back soon after tending to his family. So And then one more in terms of the Matthew Stafford suffering a sprained right index finger. He said when asked how he felt, he said, "Great." When asked how his sprained finger feels, he said he doesn't think the weather forecast in Chicago will impact how it feels. He won't wear any protection on it. So, no glove, nothing. He should be ready to go when it comes to Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, there's a lot there that you mentioned, but I go back to Kevin Dotson, and hopefully he's ready to go because I think you're really gonna have to run the football more than you did in Carolina because of the weather. Because I think it's better to play ball control, and also like you don't want to give Caleb Williams and that offense too many opportunities to pick apart that second there. Like if Bryce Young could have that much success, I think a guy who's been much improved over the last month and Caleb Williams could probably do more damage. So you got to have Dotson for various reasons, and he adds toughness too. You need toughness when it's a cold weather game. So yeah, it'd be nice to have Ferguson out there too because there's a logjam at tight end. It'll be tough to find snaps, but I think he adds versatility to the receiving game or passing game because the more weapons you have out there, and I think that's one thing that I think McVay is going to learn from that wild card victory is you probably need to incorporate more of your weapons. It can't be just Avante and Puka. So it'll be nice to have another option with Ferguson. But yeah, in Safford's ring or I forget what finger injury it was, uh,
Index finger.
index finger, it could definitely be a factor in cold weather, but it doesn't get much tougher than Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, and especially with these two quarterbacks, they're good at throwing against the wind and in the cold too. There's not expected to be any snow in this game. It's just going to be super cold, so it's just trying to stay warm and trying to get the ball out
Did,
there. Uh,
did you watch
it,
that video from Tom Brady, Vic, where he showed how to throw a better ball against the wind? And I'm like, people should watch that video.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and he was one of the best. I mean, he played like that was what made him really special. He wasn't someone who got out of the pocket and ran. Like that was the thing with him. He knew how to throw the ball, against the wind and in cold weather, situations.
Yeah, but honestly, if Brady said anything about quarterbacking, it could be a lie, and I still believe it because it's Tom Brady. But that video looked pretty cool, and it looked like it was legit information.
Yeah, and though these are honestly like Brady, Caleb, and Stafford are three of the best that are, and that's the thing. Like I think, and I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but like those teams that play outside, that's been the biggest issue when they're going out and looking for quarterbacks. Like that's the reason Big Ben was really successful. You need a big guy with a big arm. What was his name? The quarterback that was really good with the Bears, but he had like some controversial things
Oh,
going on with
Jake
him.
Cutler.
Jake Cutler, he was a
Yep.
big arm
Oh
guy
my
too,
god.
and he can get the ball through the snow and the wind. So you need big arm guys, and also that can be smart with the ball as well. And these two guys are going to be big in this matchup this week, Gilbert. And so let's get to our storylines here, Gilbert. And um, I kind of want to start. We got into a discussion with Gary. Um, with both the offense and the defense. And I went and I did some research, and like McVay has been really good against Dennis Allen. Even if you go back to his time with the Saints, where he was the defensive coordinator, he's been able to score over 30 points, and so there's that. And then Ben Johnson, he's been really good in his first season with the Bears. I I think the big thing with Ben Johnson, Gilbert, and you tell me whether or not you disagree with me, but I think the thing you have to always pay attention with Ben Johnson is the trick plays with him, and what how many does he still have in the back that he hasn't shown, and the fact that you know we saw what the Lions did when he was the offensive coordinator to the Rams in this defense, and how does Chris Shula kind of go against that? So I wanted to start there, and then we'll talk about the weather and all the
Yeah.
elements of what we might see there.
Yeah, it's a good starting point because the one thing I'm trying to figure out about this Bears team, like, am I just a prisoner of the moment or like they're very dangerous because they when there's like the Chiefs or the Patriots of the 2010s or whatever 2000s, and they win so much that you got to kind of go cruise control in the regular season and then you bring your best in the playoffs. I think the Bears are kind of doing that. Obviously, those are different teams, but like the Bears and Ben Johnson were pretty much just saying, Caleb, you got to learn how to play within the scheme. You got to learn how to play within the structure. Let's run the football. Let's just play it safe. And then boom, out of nowhere, they won 10 games. They won the division. And it's like it was like they were still finding their ways, but there were some games where you just see Ben Johnson say, you know what, we're gonna try a trick shot here, a trick shot there. But for like 70% or maybe more, like 80%, it was very conservative. Caleb, don't do too much. There was times where he got a little antsy and he wanted to go away from the pocket, and he was inaccurate. But I think now that Caleb Williams showed what he could do against the run and thrive in chaotic moments and do more and carry a team from an 18-point comeback, I wonder if Ben Johnson say, you know what, that's all I needed to see, guy. It's time for you to get you off the training wheels, let you, go and do what you got to do because that was a big time game where you got a lot of confidence, and I'm gonna now move my scheme to let you do what you do outside the pocket. And I think this is a danger zone for more trick plays, more off scripted plays, more Caleb magic, and when you have a secondary like the Rams do, that's very dangerous. And I'm not trying to criticize Bryce Young, but Bryce Young doesn't have the same arm talent that Caleb Williams does. And maybe you could talk about the weaponry being maybe better in Carolina. I like Ted McMillan, I like Coker, but I really like Colston Loveland. That's going to be an element they're going to have at tight end. So to me, I could see Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams going deep into the bag and saying, this is going to be a high scoring game. This is going to be the best offense in football. We need to keep pace. And how do you keep pace? Playing, outside the pocket, off scripted, just throwing nothing but chaos at the secondary. And I can't wait to see it. And I think they're going to do that.
Yeah, and the other thing too, Gilbert, and I saw the first half of that Bears Packers game, and Ben Johnson was a little bit amped up, right? He was going up against the Packers. He went for it a couple of times where he probably shouldn't have gone for it, and it cost him some points. And so, how aggressive does he stay, against McVay, knowing that hey, like we saw Dave Canales right off the shoot. Like, he went for it, and the Rams ended up stopping them there. I think the other thing too that I was looking at with this Bears team and Caleb Williams, who they're calling the Iceman out there, who and
Yeah.
hey, I like the nickname there just because I mean you look at the fact that they won 7 games when they trail under 2 minutes, Gilbert. So that's really impressive. The other thing too with them is where do you how do you go if you're Chris Shula, how do you go about defending Caleb Williams, this running game? The one thing you have in your favor here, Gilbert, is the fact that their left tackle, their rookie second round pick,
Yeah.
is out for this game. So Braxton Jones, I saw might play in this game, but he's not going to be their left tackle. They're probably going to use him as a jumbo in the run game,
Wow.
kind of like extra lineman out there. So does Ben Johnson rely more on the running game here with Manungai and the other running back there?
DeAndre.
Um, I like DJ Moore. I thought Luther Burden kind of broke out against the 49ers. He's someone that can stretch the field for them. But he still has issues with someone running the routes. I know I saw Ben Johnson frustrated with him a couple times in that Packers game, but he's still lethal out there. And Roma Dunse, he's a great X receiver, but the guy that I'm most fearful on this offense, Gilbert, is Colston Loveland. And I'll say this: Sean McVay has a great eye for tight ends because 2 years ago he wanted Brock Bowers, he didn't get him. Last year he wanted Colston Loveland, and he didn't get him. And so he ended up with Terrence Ferguson, who he's kind of using as Colston Loveland on this offense, which I like, but he's the guy. I mean, he had what, 8 receptions for 100 and something yards in his first in his first game. So if I'm the secondary, my number one guy that I'm trying to stop is not the running game, is Colston Loveland, because he's gonna wreck whatever defense Chris Shula wants to run. If Colston Loveland is just out there just getting open, it's game over offensively, or I guess defensively for the Rams.
Yeah, and to James's comment there, yeah, the Bears do have some good wide receivers, and DJ Moore has now had 2 game-winning touchdowns against the Packers, and from Caleb Williams, that's a nice connection. I feel like they were a little bit off this year, but obviously in the big moments, DJ Moore and Caleb have been good. Luther Burden, like you mentioned, has been coming off as late, and he's been playing well. And then Adunzie had a good start, and he slowed down, but he still caught that 4th and 8 pass on, man, one of the greatest throws I've ever seen from Caleb
Yeah.
Williams or anybody, on the run to the left, jump man pose, boom, perfect dart to Dunzier. So they do have a lot of weapons there. I know maybe that was coming off as a knock. I do like Ted McMillan and Coker a lot, but there are more options in Chicago. And like you mentioned, that could be a problem there. But yeah, maybe you do go conservative a little bit where you pace yourself more, like you mentioned, Victor, where Ben Johnson got a little too happy feet early on and had some killer fourth downs, and there's a couple weird plays too. I remember when it was like, I forget, 21-9 or something, or 21-3. That's right. Yeah, it was after halftime, and the Bears defense, to their credit, forced Jordan Love into 4 consecutive punts, and they weren't doing anything with the ball. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And they couldn't figure it out. And that's when Ben Johnson just pretty much said, "All right, Caleb Williams, do it. We'll do whatever the hell you want. Go bring us back and put us in this game." So I think there's a lot for Ben Johnson to prove because it wasn't his best performance in his debut. That was a lot of Caleb Williams just doing magic. It was just him. But that's a
Yeah,
problem.
and
Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, no, and he's been good, especially off script, and so you have to, like you mentioned earlier, like how do you balance that if you're Ben Johnson, right? You want to stay on script in the first half, and then you fall behind, 3 scores, and then you're having to ask him go off script and then come back, and then we've seen the Rams' Achilles heels is like when they get up, they go into prevent defense, and so that's the other thing. And I wanna get to I'm gonna get to this AMS, and I'm glad you brought this up. And like kind of switching over here now, let's talk about the Rams offense going up against this Rams against the Bears defense. And the Bears defense, you've had this kid Booker, the defensive end. He's kind of has started to turn things up for them. But they lost TJ Edwards, their linebacker, as well. And then Jalen Johnson just hasn't been the same player. I know he's playing hurt. And so you look at the secondary, and but one of the things, and to AMS's point, like the Bears have forced 24 turnovers this year. And one of the things with them, Gilbert, is when they've forced more than a couple turnovers, they usually end up winning the game. And so if you're the offense, I think number one, you have to protect the ball. You can turn the ball over against this team because they'll take advantage of it. But you should be able to attack this defense. And like I said, uh McVay has owned Dennis Allen, and Dennis Allen hasn't like one of the things he's done, just kind of listening to people with the Bears, is that he'll play man to man in the first half and he'll just get shredded, right? And then he'll make the adjustment in the second half where he'll play zone and he'll allow uh the offense to kind of get back into the game. And so you have to take advantage of what you have in Sean McVay. And I guess the big thing, and we asked Gary about this, is I'm you have to be in 13 personnel in this game. I get you want Devontae Adams and you want Puka out there, but it's gonna be a bad weather game. It doesn't really make sense for you to be in a lot of 11 personnel. You want to be able to run the ball in this game. I just think, Gilbert, I know that McVay is stubborn about playing 11 personnel, but in this game, you might have to be heavy 13 personnel if you really want to not only establish the run, but also play ball control, because you don't want this game to get, away from you, especially if the Bears are scoring points on you on your defense.
Yeah, but here's the one thing where I feel like again, it's gonna be whatever McVay feels comfortable with, what Stafford feels like they could attack and get away with. When you were stubborn with the 11 personnel against the Panthers secondary, that was one thing. I don't know if they have the same horses in Chicago. Obviously, the wind's gonna be a problem. I think Montez Sweat has been playing well, but like you mentioned, Jalen Johnson's been injured. TJ Edwards might not play. That's not the same secondary that they saw in Carolina that made Stafford. What did he throw 2 picks in the first game, and did he have one in the last game? I forgot already.
Yeah, he
Maybe
had
not.
the tip pass in the first game for an interception by Derek Brown and then Nick Scott, and then he had the pick six to Mike Jackson, and then he had
Yeah,
the fumble, and then he threw one against Mike Jackson again in this game in this past
yeah.
game against the Panthers.
And then the Rams also benefit from JC Horn having a concussion in the fourth quarter. So like,
Yeah,
it's just like, say you're McVay and you're saying like, okay, Stafford's having great success against this secondary. Let's just go Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams all day.
yeah,
Maybe
if
that
you
could be something. Maybe it's like a trap or like, you feel good about it and you want to go with it, or it's like, you know what, it's gonna be cold weather, it's gonna be physical. Let's run the football. So that's gonna be a lot for him to figure out because it's not the same secondary, and people are going to take that as a knock at Chicago's defense. But you're right; they have a lot of takeaways. If you get too risky and you get too cocky, too confident, maybe you throw an interception, maybe you throw a pick six, and we've seen Stafford do that. But this season, his ratio for touchdown to interception is 46-8. Like, take away the two from the Carolina game, that's like it has to be a very good defense to really frustrate him the way they're playing right now. Offensively, they're on a different planet right now. So that to me is going to be key. Can the Bears defense really hold it down? But again, I mentioned they were pretty good in that second half against Green Bay, but they also gave up 21 points right away in the first half. So that could be something where like maybe the Rams build an early lead and they're not Green Bay and they're gonna pretty much put the pedal to the metal and step on them and end the game. I don't know, but these are all things for why coaching is so valuable. Like you got to have a feel for it, a pulse for the game. Like you go into a game thinking you're gonna do this and you do that, and then it's like, oh crap, like no, we got to adjust here. So I would not be totally mad if he goes 11 personnel heavy this game because of different defense. What he did to Carolina was a little stubborn and a little confusing. But hey, we'll find out here. But I shouldn't count out that defense. They did play lights out in the second half against Green Bay.
yeah, and then kind of talking about the Rams defense too, Gilbert. I do wonder. I know you're waiting for a big Jared Verse game, but one of the things that we've seen this season and kind of for a while now is that the Rams defense struggles against running quarterbacks, and I would tend that Byron Young and Jared Verse are going to be more focused on setting the edge, making sure they don't get beat to the outside. That was one of the things I was really impressed with Byron Young a couple times in this game against the Panthers is that he really set the edge. He was out even out on coverage, which was nice there, especially with, like I said, that was my biggest concern was the screen game, and there wasn't a lot of screens that went for a lot of yards in that game, and it was because these guys were playing the edge really well. So that'll be something and that allowed guys like Puna Ford and Kobe Turner to be able to rush the passer up the middle. And so I wonder how much of that we see a lot of stunts in the middle of that line as well. So that'll be interesting too, Gilbert. I want to see where those two edges set up, and then how much either Rhino or Cheetah we see packages because they need to create pressure against Caleb Williams, and having one of those guys kind of play, whether it's Jared Verse or Byron Young, play the Cheetah role there. And be able to rush the passer, I think it's also something to kind of look at.
Yeah, if he's gonna be on the run, on the move, and it's gonna be very difficult for the edge rushers to get to Caleb Williams, like you gotta find ways to muddy the passing lanes. You gotta get a hand up. You gotta make
You know?
make. Obviously, he has great. arm talent, and some of the throws and the windows that he finds is insane, especially as of late. But you got to find ways to make it difficult where he's, and to his credit, like the thing that he needs to figure out is like he's able to protect the football really well, but he hasn't really combined that high level, magician football. I'm trying to find the right words, where like when he's in structure, like he did this year with Ben Johnson, he protected the football beautifully. But there was times where like he was out of the pocket, he was inaccurate, but he never put the ball, in harm's way. But now that he's playing at a faster pace, can he still protect the football at the same time? That's going to be interesting. So you got to make him prove it. Like if you're Jared Verse and Byron Young, like make it as tough as possible. Yeah, he can make all the throws, he could find all the angles, he could run, he could escape the pocket, he has all the weapons, but you got to give your secondary a chance. If you kind of just force him to alter his throw a little bit and it's a tip pass, you never know. We saw it in that Bills Jaguars game where Trevor Lawrence threw a tip pass, an interception. Uh, it's going to be critical. So I think when you have a secondary that's a little weak, create takeaway opportunities, and the way you do that is by disrupting him out. It's going to be like let's call it what it is. It's not going to be a pocket game. He's going to go outside the pocket. He's not going to be a sitting duck with these edge rushers, and he's good at playing away from the pocket. So find ways to confuse them. Like you mentioned, maybe these packages are just super aggressive, or maybe you do something like a Mike McDonald scheme where you confuse what he's seeing out there. And I don't know if Shula's been able to do that as well this year. Like Mike McDonald is a master of saying like what the hell's out there. Same thing with Jesse Minter. Maybe if you want to get a head coaching job, Shula, maybe this could be your master class of saying Caleb Williams had no idea what was out there, and he throws a couple of interceptions.
It'd be great to see some simulated pressures where you kind of confuse Caleb out there. We haven't seen that, and I think that was my biggest criticism of that Carolina game. It was the fact that he waited till the last drive to send pressure on Bryce Young, and so we'll see what he does in this game. I'm really intrigued as to what defensively he's going to bring and how they script this going up against a guy who's really mobile and can get out of the pocket there. And that's the thing. And whether or not Ben Johnson tries to keep him in structure, or he just says, you know what, we've been winning lately with him out of structure. Let's get him on some bootlegs. Let's get him on the run. Let's see what he can do because he's going to be the key for us to be able to beat this Rams team. We have a question here from Don, and he says, any chance McQuarrie is used as a corner in this game, given the poor play of our corners in this? And I would say with Akilo Witherspoon out, Gilbert, everybody's in. Darius Williams, who was inactive. I think Roger McCreary is also another guy you're going to see in this game. They're going to have that, and that was my other criticism was why weren't more of these corners available or active? I think in this game you're going to see all those guys active. I want to see what Darius Williams can do. I know congratulations on the baby boy to him, but they're gonna need him. I when I first saw that he did not practice, I was like, oh no, like just what they need, another injured corner. But it's just he's away because his wife gave birth to a baby boy. So, but it sounds like he'll be ready to go. But Gilbert, I wanted to ask you. I know we got on here a little bit late, so I want to make sure I ask you about this. But how much do you make of the weather? I know people in Chicago have been making a big deal out of the fact that, hey, these warm weather teams don't play well. And then Fernando brought up the fact that I think Stafford is 1-9 in cold weather games or something like that when he's outside. How much do you I my biggest thing, Gilbert, if I'm being honest, I just hate seeing when players like from the West Coast go out there and they take off all their either out there like bare chested. I'm like, you don't need to prove anything. That just makes you look weak. Just go out there and remember Jared Verse had a great game against the Eagles last year.
Oh yeah.
So just continue to do that, especially in a cold game like that.
Yeah, I know Stafford didn't have the best track record playing in Chicago, but also he played for the Detroit Lions for many years. So I don't know how much I put into stock of that record, but I do put a lot of stock into him being familiar with playing in Chicago. He knows what he's going to face. He knows the elements. He played in the NFC North for so many years, and Gary Klein mentioned that in our interview. And same thing with Devontae Adams with the Packer days that he had. Like like these guys didn't grow up in LA. Like these guys also didn't spend haven't spent a lot of time playing for the Rams, you know. So uh to me, I don't really care about that. Stafford is, playing lights out right now. Uh and I think it's gonna be a big deal that Devontae Adams now has a second game, coming back from an injury because the first one he looked a little rusty. Same thing with Quentin Lake, looked a little rusty. Like having more games and more experience and getting used to the flow of the game and trusting the injury that you had gonna go a long way. So to me, having guys who know how to play in that cold element, know the NFC North environment, could go a long way. So I think it's a little overblown, but yeah, it does play a factor. It does matter too. But like this is a very young Chicago team. Like Stafford has probably just as much experience as the Bears do this year playing in the cold. So it's gonna be their first divisional game for a lot of these guys. It's a lot of pressure. You're also facing an opponent you don't know very well because they're not a divisional rival. They played the Packers 3 times. Like you know what the hell
Yep.
you're gonna get from that team. And I honestly forgot about the Rams playing the Bears last year. So, uh, yeah, to me, they haven't faced each other this year. I think those are the best playoff matches when you don't have any sample from the regular season and you go into a playoff game and say, "All right, let's go battle." It might be a feel out game for the first half, and then the fireworks come out in the second half. But to me, I think the weather's a little overblown.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we saw what happened last year with the Rams going to Philadelphia. I mean, this is a completely different team. They're way more talented than that team last year that almost beat the Eagles in the snow. It's not supposed to snow in that game in the game on Sunday. It's just supposed to be really cold. So they've been battle tested. I'm not concerned about that. And as Gary said, and you mentioned this, it's like all these players have played in the cold. They came from schools like Michigan and Notre Dame. They played in cold weather games. But before we go, Gilbert, I want to make sure we get to these comments and then we'll give our game predictions here. Let's start off with AMS. He says Nate Scalisi is visiting several teams for head coaching jobs. And I've been saying like he's someone that people need to go hire. We talked about it on Gombas on the Beat. You brought him up. You said you talked to him earlier last year when you told him about Noel, the wide receiver out of Iowa State. The thing with him is he's a former quarterback, and then with Matt Campbell, he was supposed to take over for in Iowa State, as you mentioned. So he's someone that I feel like is gonna get not only a good look, but if he doesn't get a head coaching job, he's gonna go be an OC next year, right, Gilbert?
Yeah, he definitely has some big opportunities coming his way, either OC as a play caller or as a head coach. I'll be surprised a little bit if he gets a head coaching job, but with 9 openings and then everybody's looking for young, fresh ideas and innovation, and then seeing how much that he contributed to Stafford's passing game in an MVP season and the best offense in football, he might get a crack at a head coaching job, but I think it would be more OC. So when you're McVay's OC, you don't get to call plays. So go somewhere and prove it. And I think that will pretty much be the last step for him to be a head coach. So either way, he's set up for a big opportunity. And either way, probably don't expect him to come back because I forget. I think Iowa State already hired a coach, right? So uh,
Yeah.
he was in the running for that too. So this guy is coveted right now, and he's going to find a job, unfortunately, elsewhere from the LA Rams.
Yeah, and they're gonna poach more coaches from McVay staff, so he's gonna have to go and look for more guys. Um, it's just the way it is with McVay. Like he's been really good at replacing his guys and looking for the next guy that is gonna, you know, be coveted. Like we're seeing with Lafleur here and Scalisi here. Let's go to Brian Smith. He says, not as worried as I was about the Carolina game. He is also
Wow.
asking, are the Bears another last place division team? Yes. They were a last place team, but their schedule was actually really tough. That's why I didn't have them making the playoffs, just because the schedule, even though they were a last fourth place team, they still had a tough schedule. I was trying to remember. I believe it was the NFC East and I forget what the other division they faced, the NFC North, who they faced, but the NFC North. Part of the reason why they only got 2 teams into the playoffs was because they went up against a hard schedule.
Yeah, that I remember the final 6 games for the Bears was difficult, and I think they might have gone 3-3, they split, so, hey, but, I mean, the Packers had a very rough final month, the Lions faded, and the Vikings didn't have a quarterback, so, like, it's surprising that the NFC North the winner only needed 11 wins, but the Bears did rack up most of their victories when the schedule was easy, and that actually turned out to be a favor for them. It worked out because everybody else faded. But I remember the final 6 weeks were very difficult, and there were some impressive victories, like beating the Eagles, beating the Packers in Week 16. They lost to the 49ers. They lost to the Lions. So it was an up and down final 6 weeks, I think, but it was still a difficult schedule.
Yeah, and I think that was the impressive thing too, like the way they won those one score games. It'll be interesting to see what happens with them next year, just because you can rely on that. We saw that with the Chiefs the year before. They were 11-0 in one score games, and then this year they started the year 0-5. So hey, this and that's another thing too, Gilbert. Like, are they just happy to be here? Do they just are how do you coach that? Like, this team hasn't been here in a while. Last time was, with Matt Nagy, and so I just wonder, are they just happy to be here for them? The Rams are all business. They That's why I think that why they're favored by 3 points in this game is because of that. And so, and you ask a lot of Chicago reporters, they know that the Rams are the better team, but the Bears have a chance because they're at home, and you have Ben Johnson and you have Caleb Williams.
Yeah, so there's a lot of factors that go into it, and they came out on the right side of it, and they in a way they kind of benefited from facing a familiar foe, and having that maybe difficult schedule could pay off in the long run because you took some hits and you came out on the other side of it.
Yeah. Continuing on here with Don, he says, also, why doesn't McVay ever try any trick plays like he used to with Cooper Cup passing? What do you think?
I think it's tough to do that with the quarterback as good as Stafford because I always feel like the trick play guys are the ones that put it this way, you're squandering a snap for your superstar quarterback. Like you don't want to do that with Josh Allen. Like he's gonna do something. Patrick Mahomes, you're gonna do something like Jared Goff. Okay, like Jared Goff is not an elite talent. He's a good quarterback, but like you could maybe burn a couple trick plays with Jared Goff. So to me, it's more of how like Stafford what is it like 80% of the time you're gonna have a lot of success with Stafford throwing the ball. Why would you risk it? But yeah, it's very like a timely thing. You never know. They do it all the time with young quarterbacks who are still trying to find their footing. You don't do that with an MVP front runner.
Yeah, I'll make a bold prediction. I say Meve does one trick play just to, like, do something different.
Yeah.
We'll see what it is. I will be really interesting to see because I'm with you. Like, why would you waste a trick play on when you have this much talent on your team? You have Puka Nakua, you have Devontae Adams, and then you have all those tight ends. So maybe we see something from one of those tight ends throwing to one of the receivers. Um, where Stafford is under center, that would be something you could see. But we'll see. I mean, I think mostly you're going to see the screen game. You'll see a lot of either screens to the tight ends or screen to the running backs. I think that's what they would call their trick plays, if we're being honest.
Yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But hey, if Ben Johnson's gonna be going deep into his bag, maybe McVay does too.
Yeah. And then Master Lex says, curious as to how the Bears will play the Rams. Ben Johnson being the head coach, seen the Rams several times with the Lions, as we talked about. It'll be interesting to see. Does he stay with the running? One of the things I remember from those Lions games is that they just ran the ball on the Rams. But I would take the
Yeah.
running backs that he had with the Lions over the ones he has now. I don't think he's able to do the same things.
Yeah, there's no Jameer Gibbs. I do like Swift and I do like Monangai. But they're different teams. Like you still have a lot of weapons, and they have a good O line. You have an All Pro and a right tackle and Darnell Wright. You have Joe Tooney, who's a Pro Bowler. They got some good stuff from Jonah Jackson. You know, the Rams could not get anything from Jonah Jackson. Obviously, they lost their left tackle, but when you got a good O line, you got a lot of playmakers. Like, you know, I think it's going to be a little different, but it does. I'm sure it helps that Ben Johnson played the Rams in the playoffs, played them in that Week 1 game. I think there will be something there that he could use to his advantage, but they're different personnel. I feel like.
Yeah, that's why I thought about, and I'm glad Gary brought up the fact that the Rams played in Chicago last year. It was a 10 a.m. game. I still remember. And he's got a great memory because he was talking about what happened in that game.
I
I want you
forgot.
guys to go check out that uh that Gary Klein interview. But it's a different coaching staff. So I'm like, I'm not gonna. I rather look at Ben Johnson with the Lions and then Dennis Allen with the Saints because that gives us more of how they've gone, against each other. So that gives me more of an opportunity to see how this game might go, as opposed to looking at that matchup when that coaching staff is now gone, Gilbert. All right, let's get to the spread here. The Rams are 3.5 point favorites. Has it gone down to three now? It was 3.5 when I put it. It might be three now. I think it's
Yeah,
three.
I think it's 3.5, but let me double check. Yes, 3.5.
Okay, and then the over under here is 48.5. What's the right side of this line, Gilbert?
Uh, man, it's tough because obviously it's not the 10.5 spread from last week. Obviously, the Rams did not cover that, but I I I think people are gonna see this and be like, "This is pretty low. It's not 10 points. It's not a touchdown." And I think that's why it went up from 3 to 3.5. People are taking the Rams, and they're all, I get it. The Rams are more proven. They have Stafford. They have a better offense. You know they just have a lot of benefits here, and that there's a reason why they're the favorites. But to me, I think it's going to be a close game. So I would take the Bears points. I'll take the 3.5 because you get the hook, you get over the field goal. I think it's going to be a very close game. It might be a little similar to the Carolina game. And that's just kind of what it is when you have a weak secondary and you're playing some good quarterbacks and you're playing some good offenses. Like, you're going to be in a close game, but who knows? The Carolina secondary was a problem. I don't know if the Bears have that to give Stafford problems. So I could be wrong here. Maybe they do blow him out. But I just really liked what I saw from Caleb Williams last week, and I think that could be a whole lot of problems for the secondary.
Yeah, and I looked at this line and I was like, I was kind of surprised. I figured it'd be like three at least, but I think part of it too is that it scared a lot of people with the fact that the Rams were 10.5 point favorites against the Panthers and they didn't cover. But they've been a public team. Like a lot of people like the Rams here, and they've liked them the most of the season. So I would take I think the right side is taking the Rams here. And then I've been kind of struggling. I know where you're at on the over under. I think 48.5 is a lot of points, especially in a cold weather game. So I might take the under here, Gilbert.
I'll take the over. I just don't trust the Rams secondary. So it's going to be high scoring, and I think the Rams could light up this defense. They're just not good defenses. Sorry, I apologize to Jared Verse in the front, but I don't know. I just haven't seen that front dominate, and unless they like, okay, let's say they don't, if they don't dominate, like, you're gonna get picked apart. It's just what it is. You don't have the talent or the
Yeah.
horses in the back end. But if they do bring a lot of pressure, if they do create takeaways, if they do create opportunities for PBUs, and I think the Rams could blow them out. But it's just like I just don't trust this front right now to step up.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's and then you also have the concerns with the Rams special teams as well. All right, Gilbert, it's time for our game predictions. Let us know what the score of this game will be. We already have one here from AMS. He's got the Rams 34, the Bears 21. Gilbert, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first here with your game prediction?
Yeah, I could go first. Yeah, obviously I'm going high scoring. I'm going close game, but I think it'll be a late field goal. Let's go. Let's see if Mavis does something here. That's a little risky asking for the Rams, but let's go Rams 30, Bears 27. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. So yeah, I'm going. I'm expecting fireworks and I'm expecting drama. Cold weather, bring it on. Chicago football should be fun. So 30 to 27, LA Rams win.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Chicago Bears games this year because they've been here in LA for some reason. And Tom Brady has had a lot of those games. He's going to be on the call. Oh no, actually no, it's NBC. Never mind. It's weird. I don't were the Rams on Sunday Night Football at all this year? Because I don't remember.
Yeah, the
I
Buccaneers.
The
Buccaneers was
Buccaneers game, that's right. They were on there only once. But yeah, this game's on NBC. But um one of the things I've noticed, Gilbert, is whenever they went up against a really good coach, they struggle. Like Kyle Shanahan lit them up. If it wasn't for the pick six against with Brock Purdy to open up that game would should have been a blowout. Yeah, the Bears moved the ball on that terrible Niners defense. But at the end of the day, I think the fact that you have Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, you should be able to take advantage and win this game. I still have my issues. I'm with you with the defense and the special teams. But if you're McVay here, this is an opportunity where, look, last year it you were one play away from advancing to the NFC Championship game and going up against the Commanders. And this year, you have the better of the teams. Yeah, you're going on the road. You're playing in bad weather, but you have to win these games. You're the better coach, and you have the MVP on your team. You have the better offense. You should be able to outcoach Ben Johnson in this game. And so I'm with you. I'm actually thinking, Gilbert, that it's going to be a 30 to 20 game, or somewhere in there where it's like 30 to 17, where you just get
Wow.
the under. I just don't have any confidence in the Bears being able, like, yeah, they took advantage. They everybody's gonna think about those Green Bay games, but they trailed in all those games, and the the Packers for some reason just stopped playing in the second half. And as you mentioned, they know those teams really well. When they've gone out of conference, they haven't played as well, especially when they face a team that is really good offensively. So I'm with you. I want to get to a couple here. We have Daniel who says 27-21 Rams. Um, he's asking about Dotson, whether he's a go. He was a limited participant, Daniel. According to Sean McVay, he should be good to go this week. So expect him. You have Brian Smith. He's got the Rams by 3. And then we have, I think I saw Colin on here. Where's Colin? Colin says, I think I feel it can be mid scoring 17 to 21 game because the cold weather can affect the outcome of the scoring. So he's also got I would say it's the under right there, 38,
Yeah,
uh,
that's
38
low
points.
scoring.
So slow scoring, Gilbert. So yeah, I hope it's a good game, but I just think this is the opportunity for the Rams. You didn't get to face the a tough defense. You know what it is going up against a tough defense. You should be able to score in this game, Gilbert. As I'm with you, I just think if you allow the Bears to beat you here, it just shows that maybe McVay isn't up to task, because this is a game. You're the better team. It doesn't matter. We can all agree that the Rams are the better team here. You should be able to scheme against Ben Johnson and that defense.
Yeah, obviously, if you lose to the Bears, wouldn't be as, I guess, embarrassing, or as, I don't know what the right word is, but if they would have lost to the Panthers, that would have been embarrassing. That would have been one of the
Yeah.
biggest playoff upsets in a long time. If you lose to the Bears, there's some embarrassment there. And I don't even know if it's embarrassment. It's more like you missed an opportunity. So I get what you're saying. We're like, you didn't draw the Seahawks, you didn't draw the Eagles, you didn't even face a divisional rival. Like you got the
Yeah.
Bears, who are new to the party. They're not as experienced. obviously you got to face the cold weather there and the wind. That's such a big deal and a hot topic. But yeah, if you lose to them, it's going to be a very missed opportunity where like you could have been at least in the NFC title game, one game away from the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think they'll get it done here. I think we all get Seahawks Part 3. That's gonna be a gift for everybody, well, besides Chicago fans. But that'll be a big game. Even if you get Shanahan, McVay, the NFC title game again, will be great too. So, yeah, you want to make that happen. You go over there, Rams, and get that opportunity to face a divisional rival for the Super Bowl. What else do you want? So it will be kind of a letdown here. So, yeah, but I've seen this team a lot where they like to keep it close. So I'm going with a close game. I know Brian likes Victor score better because it's a blowout. But I can't I'm like Daniel. I can't fully trust the secondary. So it's gonna be a lot of fireworks, I believe.
Yeah, he's just Daniel says I'm terrified about our DVs and our run defense, and I'm just like, yeah, and and Brian's right. Stop buying the weather narrative. The talking heads are using it to create drama, and like I said, everybody's gonna focus on the fact that they played terrible against the Panthers, and I get it. But like, if you really look at their last two losses, Gilbert, it was against teams that knew them very well. It was Raheem Morris with the
Yeah.
Falcons, who had been there in that coaching staff, and it was Iwaru with the Carolina Panthers. He knew how to go against this McVay offense. So, and I like I said too, you look at Dennis Allen, he hasn't had a good history against Sean McVay. So I don't know how the Bears stop Sean McVay in this Rams offense. I just don't know how. I at least I know that that front for the Rams is good enough. They don't need to be great. They just need to be good enough. And then special teams just needs to stay out of the way here. Like and we'll see what happens. But I think that's my biggest fear for the Rams would be the special teams. If the special teams do something bad here, then it's ball game for the Bears here, and they'll win this game.
It's gonna be a factor in
Yeah,
some way, I feel like special teams.
yeah.
But if even if there's a mistake, you can't let it like just be snowball into some massive mistakes here. So, but I think it's gonna happen. They're gonna need special teams in one way or another. That's the playoff football. That's why McVay made a change at coordinator because he knows how tight the games get in the playoffs, and when you have close games, you better have special teams. So, but yeah, we've analyzed this game a lot already. We have an hour here. We got a good 30 minutes with Gary Klein. Again, we're going to post this interview, as soon as we're done here. So check that out. Please do us a favor when you see the Gary Klein interview, like it, add a comment, let the algorithm do its thing and spread it all over the internet. So we need people to see everything that or hear everything that Gary said because it was very insightful.
Yeah, and I mean, you started off with him, then I joined in, and we had a really good conversation, and it was good to hear him give you kudos for being on the beat there in 2022. There's a little behind the scenes kind of Gary talking about Gilbert there, so that was really cool to see. Just the respect between you two, it's awesome to see, and it's good to see that reporters out there, no matter what, are always looking out for each other. Especially in this business with which can be cutthroat sometimes, Gilbert. So
Oh yeah.
that was awesome to see as well. So make sure you check it out.
Yeah, yeah. See, Gary's a good friend, obviously a good reporter. But yeah, thank you for everybody for being here in the comments. Brian, Colin, Daniel, uh, Master Lex. I see AMS. He got it started. James, Don. So a lot of good names here. A lot of good, insightful comments. A lot of chatter. We appreciate it. Don't be shy. It was your first time watching, and you're hesitant to add a comment. Don't be, go ahead and drop it, and obviously ask us questions too, or just share your thoughts. But yeah, this is why we have House of Horns here. Hopefully we are back for another preview next week. That means the Rams won. If not, we'll probably be back to put a bow on the season. Regardless, we'll be here. But yeah, check out everything we're doing here at House of Horns and Compas on the Beat. It's been another busy week here as we get into the midway point of the NFL playoffs. So it's time to get going here. On that note, ya nos vamos, pues.